FSN Radio. It's all about what's next. Go to financialsurvivalnetwork.com and sign up for your free weekly newsletter. You'll also get 3 free reports. The Financial Survival Network. It's all about what's next.
Welcome, and you are listening to the Financial Survival Network. I'm Kerry Lutz. It's March 27th, 2018. Well, you begin to wonder, should we just install or build an assisted living facility in the Capitol? Is it time that we put some of these elderly congresspeople either on permanent leave or just set up a nursing home somewhere under the Capitol dome? And look, they're so old, some of them, and not in the best condition, that it probably would improve the work atmosphere, certainly get rid of a lot of the harassment complaints and settlements that have taken place over the past 10 years. Well, health is always an issue. Just look at Hillary Clinton. By the way, health issues or anything else, be part of the show. Email us at kl@kerrylutz.com. Hillary Clinton took a couple spills over in India, and hey, nothing to see here, just move along. Anyway, when it comes to figuring out what they're hiding in terms of their health, the person to talk to is Dr. Ted Noel. Dr. Ted, welcome back to the show.
Glad to be with you.
Hey, so I figured after the election, honestly, not much to talk about anymore. Trump's elected and the health concerns fade. But we got Nancy Pelosi cannot string together 3 words without a brain freeze. We got Joe Biden. I mean, that guy, there's something going on with him. Hillary is back stumbling downstairs, and all of them project and say, well, Trump is early onset of Alzheimer's. Well, maybe not that early. He is 71.
Well, they want to say he has narcissistic personality disorder. That's their big one.
Well, they shouldn't be saying that, because certainly the former occupant, the last occupant, I mean, they erected a Greek styrofoam temple for the guy in Denver right after his inauguration in 2008, and things only went downhill from there.
Oh, my goodness. I'd forgotten that.
Yeah. So first, let's talk about Hillary. I mean, you, more than anyone during the election, took a methodical, scientific, analytical approach, exactly what you were trained to do as a doctor all those years that you practiced, and you broke it down step by step to arrive not at a conclusion. You always were very clear from the beginning, hey, I'm not her doctor. I haven't, given her a physical. I haven't reviewed all of her records, but based upon these facts, this conclusion is not inconsistent. It's not necessarily correct, but it's not inconsistent. That is something that is totally lacking from the public discourse these days. But she goes on, and her latest exploits, if you will, have only confirmed your prior hypotheses.
Yeah, the problem with Hillary, frankly, is twofold. One, I would not say it's a hypothesis. I'd say it's a highly likely hypothesis, confirmed by others who are even more specialized in the trade, that she has Parkinson's disease. It's also confirmed by by reports that came out of the Secret Service, and it fits everything we saw. One of the things about Parkinson's disease is that it's an observational diagnosis. Now, while I can't make a diagnosis, I can say it's highly likely. And as I pointed out, here's how to prove me wrong: release her real medical records, not a one-page letter. Yeah. What she demonstrated in India is most likely Parkinson's. There's a thing called bradykinesia, where you have difficulty walking, you have a stiff leg when you're walking, and you have to be shown where to step. We saw, for example, when she left the convention after her speech, there was a Secret Service guy with a flashlight projecting a small circle on the floor, which basically said, step here. And that sort of thing is very common. As she was coming down the steps, she didn't have anybody telling her to where to step. And so she was unable to pick the flat parts to put her feet on. And so twice her left foot got onto a broken part of a step and she just slid out. Then when you watch the fall, you watch something else that's typical of Parkinson's disease, which is an inability to resist falling backwards. There are a couple of provocative tests basically designed to test, can you resist falling backwards? And if I take a normal person and administer either of these tests, for example, if I'm behind you and have you lean against my hands and then pop my hands away from your back, what you will do is you will step backwards.
Correct.
A Parkinson's patient will simply fall into my hands. And she would fail that, and this is what we saw on the steps. So she had bradykinesia, couldn't see where to step. She fell backwards without resistance. And, oh, by the way, do we remember an episode where she said she was in heels running? When's the last time we saw her run? With a cup of coffee, which she hasn't drunk in 7 years.
Only chai lattes that make her go into seizures, but yeah.
Well, that was something else. But and then she fell backwards and broke her foot. Now, how do you fall backwards and break your foot? But why would you fall backwards?
Yeah, you're going to fall forward because that's the direction your weight is heading in.
Oh, by the way, if I were to step on that thing coming down, I would suddenly find my upper body going forward and me into a waist flex type position, which would be part of recovering from the slide. Instead, she falls straight back. And the next day, we find out that she, quote, fell backwards in the tub and broke her wrist or her hand or something of that sort.
Yeah, she has a lot of falls, like more falls than my grandmother, who was 94, ever had in her life. And they always wind up with pretty bad injuries, too. Broken bones, broken toe, supposedly, or foot. Who knows? But, the other thing I find interesting is, look, you know that you have problems with balance. Clearly she does by any measure, regardless if it's a Parkinson diagnosis or not. And yet, you're walking around all these old temples. You know there's no handicap accessible ramps at the Taj Mahal. You got to go up those steps. A lot of them are broken. So you would wear shoes that are going to give you the maximum support and stability. Like, I know I have weak ankles. If I'm walking up a lot of steps, I wear a pair of boots because a pair of boots is going to give me the maximum support. So if I do trip off a curb or something, I'll hopefully not fall down and break something. So where is her judgment? She's wearing a pair of
and that's the
sandals.
Second part of this. There's actually a third part. Parkinson's has a dementia that's associated with it. And that dementia is essentially an inability to reason, which would have been an incredible disaster in the White House. But that's part of where you're going. The second part is that she has a narcissistic personality disorder, and I did a podcast on that, and where people were arguing about Trump having a narcissistic personality.
Right.
And when you walk through it, let's back up for a second. The name comes from Greek mythology, where a character named Narcissus was so enamored with his own beauty that one day he looked into a still pond, saw his reflection, and he was just so overcome by his beauty, he died looking at his reflection.
Yeah, I know that Greek mythology.
Most people don't learn that. But you're saying, basically what you're saying is, I am so beautiful. And Hillary clearly shows multiple signs of narcissistic personality disorder. And as a result, because I am so beautiful, I cannot possibly have these other problems. I cannot possibly have anything that requires me to, for example, use a cane or a walker, because those things would make me prove that I'm not beautiful.
Yeah.
And so add that to her reasoning difficulties, and now you have somebody who won't use the things that would help her be safe.
And that's such a great point. There are two types of narcissistic personality disorders. Physical, like supermodels, and I don't have to eat anything because the thinner I get, the more gorgeous I look. And then mental or intellectual narcissism. I am so brilliant. I am the smartest woman in the world, and therefore everyone should bow down. And, these these personalities.
All politicians have it to some degree.
Of course.
I'm the best guy for this job. But you find it's really rare to find someone who is looking at it as I'm the best guy to serve. Trey Gowdy's a good example there. Jim Jordan is another good example of I'm here to serve. I'm the best guy for the job because of my skill set that we know it's proven, and I'm not there because I'm beautiful.
Yeah, well, they say politics is Hollywood for the ugly, and
well, unfortunately, we know that 80% of the better-looking people on a photograph will win the election.
Very, very true. So, we go on to other leaders. Nancy Pelosi. Now, look, I've been around, I live in Florida. My grandmother was in an assisted living nursing home. You see it all over the place. There's something really wrong with this person, isn't there?
Oh, absolutely. Her word hunting, her name forgetfulness. There's been a lot of talk around the web that she may have Alzheimer's disease, which was named for Dr. Alois Alzheimer, who described it in 1906. And there are 7 stages to the disease. The first stage you really can't identify except when you're doing PET scanning, which is a particular kind of radiologic study. On the second stage, you have some very mild changes that maybe the family might go, something ain't quite right, but you're not really sure that there's anything going on. You'll have words that you lose, or where did I put that? Where are my keys? Granted, a lot of us will.
Yeah, could do that anyway, right?
But they're very common issues, so there's a common wisecrack at that point. I've got halfheimers. I haven't forgotten all of it, just half.
Yeah. I feel that way sometimes myself. I can't remember a name. But it's weird. I think in Alzheimer, the name will never come to you. But under ordinary memory, where you've just kind of misfiled it, it comes back to you either in a few seconds or in a couple of minutes or even a day.
Right. Now, the third stage is where problems start to become. And here's a point I made in a podcast about this.
If Nancy Pelosi has Alzheimer's, she hasn't hit stage 4, which is obvious public decline beyond just the forgetfulness for names and unconscious repetition that she shows now. And until that comes, we're just going to have to say she's consistent with it, and we can't really go any further without detailed evaluation from someone up close.
It's amazing. What do? You get people with that kind of power, doctor, and very little accountability. It seems that there's a lot of people that would like to get her out as minority leader, because she could be majority leader come November, God forbid, and yet they can't get rid of her. I mean, there's got to be a better way now that our ability to diagnose these problems has improved so much, right? What do we do with a Nancy Pelosi?
We can't really do anything about it because it would require the cooperation of the Democrats in the House, and she's got too much on too many of them. There's too many people owe her things to do anything. What about the notorious RBG, Ruth Bader Ginsburg?
Oh, God, yeah. What's
her recent pronouncements indicate a severe lack of judgment, and the only people who can remove her basically are the other members of the court saying it's time to retire, and she has to agree. Now, that has happened in the past. I forget which justice it was who was basically told, go home and enjoy life. But it has happened when the other members of the court came and said, look, you need to leave.
Mm-hmm. And yet the Democrats don't see any need to do this? What is going on here? Isn't this for the better of the country?
You make the assumption that they're interested in the betterment of the country.
I guess so.
And I would say that the Democrats aren't interested in that at all. They're interested in power. And all of the people like that march are idiots.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
The Democrats in the system we're in the system. We want to aggregate power for ourselves, which is a natural human drive.
Mm-hmm. But it gets to the point where it's self-destructive to your own interests and those of your host. It's parasitic behavior for sure. They're engaging.
Exactly. But the lesson of history is that sort of parasitic behavior never ends.
Mm-hmm. That is for certain. Are there any other people in the government you think we should take a closer look at in terms of health, cognitive abilities?
Well, obviously the question is raised about Donald Trump. Mm-hmm. Is he mentally unstable? And you have Bandy Lee, who is a psychiatrist from one of the Northeastern liberal universities, and several other psychiatrists who are attempting to declare that he is mentally unfit and have published a book saying so. The fact is that they have ignored huge amounts of evidence that says that the guy's got it together. Mm-hmm. When you watch the listening sessions, he is extremely adept at picking up things people say, at following in a logical fashion toward good, solid conclusions. And he demonstrates extremely good reasoning capabilities. And the problem is they don't like what he ends up with the reasoning.
So they're letting their own personal feelings, opinions interfere with their professional observations. And what about this Goldwater rule, which said psychiatrists, psychologists not allowed to evaluate a political candidate, based on public statements or whatever?
Well, the basic thing that they're saying that the Goldwater rule said was essentially all psychiatric diagnoses require highly detailed, involved personal analysis, and you can't do that from a distance. Mm-hmm. Now, if you've got somebody who is at stage 4 or 5 Alzheimer's, that you can do from a distance because mm-hmm. it is so obvious. But when you're looking at, Donald Trump, mm-hmm. he doesn't demonstrate anything from a distance, and the Goldwater rule should apply.
Right.
Yeah. So they are just they're flat off the reservation because their politics require it, and otherwise they are being totally irresponsible.
Right. Yeah, totally.
But 60 Minutes refused to look at my series of videos. I had one that said, "Here's how to prove me wrong."
Yeah. Well, no objectivity there. Hey, Dr. Ted, we got to wrap up now. People want to find out more about you, listen to your podcast, watch your YouTubes. Where's the best place to go?
Well, there are a couple of ways to go. You can go to my website, vidzet.com. That's like Video Gazette. You can go to YouTube. I have a VidZet channel on YouTube where typically once a week I'll get something posted up. And I try to style it as your place for careful consideration of our common concerns. I'm not going to get out and yell and scream like an Alex Jones. I'm not going to put something out that's clickbait. I'm simply going to try to carefully discuss and educate.
And that's what it's all about. We share common values and a common vision that when you appeal to a person's reason, there are ways to do it and there are ways not to. But the emotional nonsense that we go through in our day-to-day, talking about common issues, often with common solutions, but depending upon whom the messenger might be, causes objections, got to end. It's not in anyone's benefit. Dividing the populace is obviously only in one party's interest, and that is the party that runs the show. If they can keep you all divided and fighting with each other, then they never have to worry about getting confronted themselves. Hey, Dr. Ted, it's always great to have you on. Hey, again.
Oh, it's been a pleasure. Call me anytime.
All right. Hey, and join the conversation. Send us an email. kl@kerrylutz.com is the email address. Twitter feed @KerryLutz. Facebook page, Financial Survival Network. Dr. Ted, we'll talk to you again soon.
All right. Looking forward to it.
FSN Radio. It's all about what's next. Go to financialsurvivalnetwork.com and sign up for your free weekly newsletter. You'll also get 3 free reports. The Financial Survival Network. It's all about what's next.